Welcome to the Money Mentors Podcast.
Wow, I got to say, we had a week of kind of warm temperature, a little bit moisture side of things, and then bam, what was it, middle of the week? It just started walking down in temperatures. Things froze. I mean, I was driving into work, and I went from rain to snow to sleet, back to snow, in a amount of 30 minutes.
All in one trip.
Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah, that too, Jennifer. Experience all the effects.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, you just never know around here. And it's kind of like the market too. You can kind of go through all the emotions, all the different ups and downs all in one day too. Lately, it's kind of seemed like that too because of everything that's going on in the headlines. We're going to talk about that today here on Money Mentors, as well as a number of different issues for those of you getting ready to retire or already retired. So if you have questions for Gary and Laurel about anything we discuss on today's show, as always, you can reach out to our team off the air, 800-536-8907. Or you can always set up a simple phone call through our website too at mattsonfinancial.com. Always easy to do there. Completely revamped website for you too. A lot of great resources online for you there. Mattsonfinancial.com. And so let's talk about this market here this week because I think if you were thinking that 2026 would somehow be a bit calmer than 2025, I mean, let's consider what just happened in these first few weeks. A takeover of Venezuela, continuing talks about tariffs, a feud between the Federal Reserve and the White House that's reached whole new levels in this past week. And yet, market historian Sam Stovall with CFRA Research tells CNBC, Wall Street is overcoming this whole wall of worry, and what happens this month could really set the tone for the rest of the year.
But the first 5 days were positive, according to the Stock Traders Almanac, and that historically has added to the likelihood of a positive return for the S&P. I prefer the January barometer. As goes January, so goes the year. A positive January has led to a positive full year, 86% of the time versus a more normal 72%.
All right. I love that he's into the stats and everything like that, but there are still a lot of headwinds here in the new year. So how are you positioning your clients right now based on everything that's happening out there?
For us, yes, we pay attention to the headlines, but the headlines are not what makes the impact or makes us change what direction things are going, because that's the emotion piece, right?
Yeah.
And if we're jumping in and out of the market all the time, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. So for us, we look at it right from the beginning. The moment we meet you, we're going to talk about your dreams, goals, and desires. Learn about your risk. Not only how much risk can you take or what doesn't keep you up at night, but also what really works for your plan, and then tying that to your hard-earned dollars so you're invested with purpose. And from there, we do have a long-term vision. We're strategizing with taxes and what does health insurance premiums look like, all of these things to make sure that you have a good holistic plan. But we're going to keep looking at it. We're active money managers year over year, and we're going to keep stress testing your plans for what if scenarios. And really that active management piece means, first and foremost, we've had a lot of great ups, so we need to make sure we're harvesting gains to protect those, right? You're in retirement years. You can't withstand to lose that hard-earned money. So we need to make sure we're harvesting those gains and protecting those for future, but also making sure your income strategies can withstand volatility because we know it's here to stay, and we rebalance with purpose, not emotion.
Yeah, think of it this way, is that if you looked at your portfolio, and let's say you're getting 7.5% return, and that's what you're getting, and everything's going fine, you're really not reacting to what the market's doing, compared to our portfolio, maybe we're getting a 2 to 2.5% better return, and the reason for that is that we're doing tweaking along the way. We might be, when crypto's high or gold's high like it is now, we're not just holding it, but we may be selling that because there's an opportunity elsewhere. Think of it this way. If you're holding just stocks and bonds in your portfolio, in the last 25 years, they've gone down together a third of the time. That means a third of the time your portfolio is just getting beat up. What would happen if you had a portfolio that took advantage of those downturns and actually bought into a market? Alternative assets let us do that. They're either going to keep going up, like gold or cryptocurrency or other things like that, or they're going to be in a position that we can give you income without losses, Or my favorite is when the market's down 10% or more, let's go buy. Let's go buy what's opportunity out there. And we've seen great big double-digit returns on portfolios that we've done that with in the last year. So what's that mean to you as an investor? That means that your money could be over a 30-year span, an extra 50% in the portfolio.
Wow.
In other words, you might have $1 million. That means over 30 years, you might have $1.5 million in that portfolio, even though you've taken income. That's what we call a retirement with purpose.
Yeah, for sure. It can make a huge difference in what you get to keep for yourself in retirement, what you get to live on during those years. And that's really the value of active management versus just, kind of just sitting there and letting the market happen to you at a time like this. And I know even though the market's doing pretty well, despite everything that's happening right now, it does make people a little bit nervous because a lot of us are tuned into the news. People listen here to Wood Radio every day. They know what's happening. So for our listeners out there who are a little concerned about how it might affect what they're invested in and maybe need a second opinion here in 2026, how can they get started this weekend?
Yeah, and I think something Dad said, right, is many people are still operating on that set it and forget it portfolio built years ago. And so we're offering this second opinion because for us, it's not about starting over, right? And getting to know a new team and, I have to go through all of this stuff. It's about checking alignment, right? Looking at that income reliability. What about your risk exposure versus your actually real needs and how taxes and healthcare costs fit into this picture? So we're offering that for the first 5 callers today. If you save $250,000 or more and want that second opinion about checking your alignment, you can give us a call at 800-536-8907 for a complimentary conversation today.
Reach out at any point during the show. Again, that number is 800-536-8907. 800-536-8907. Or you can always start online too at mattsonfinancial.com. Well, there are conflicting reports lately about how well the Social Security Administration is doing in terms of dealing with consumers and retirees. Some say the backlog of applications is easing now, and there are more ways to get in touch with the agency, but others say it's still a really frustrating process. So you help your clients with this process all the time. What are they saying about it?
Well, I have personal experience that since my mom passed, we have to get in touch with Social Security Administration for my stepdad and making sure that there's calculations going on. We set an appointment locally at the office. We went to the office at the designated time, and the office was closed.
My goodness.
And we're not the only ones out in the parking lot looking around going like, what's going on? The funny thing is I called the national number and say, I'm at the office. I'm supposed to have an appointment here. And they're going like, we don't show that office closed.
Oh.
Very frustrating.
Oh, man.
And obviously the government shutdown didn't help, but I mean, this isn't a new thing, right? And so for us, especially when it comes to Medicare and affects all these other things, because your Social Security can come out of your Medicare premiums, right? Things like that. So we do have some of our advisors helping with our clients. We have our health insurance specialist who focuses on Medicare, Matt. He helps with all of this too. But really, it goes back to making sure when it comes to Social Security that you have an expert helping you with what's happening. Because if we can make sure we're getting it right from the beginning, we've stress tested the way that you're going to take it. A lot of people come in and say, I want to take it early, or maybe I want to take it at my full retirement age at 67. We're going to look at different ways about how you should structure this, and more so, how does this income added into your portfolio help the overall plan? Does it help us in a way because it's going to alleviate your withdrawals up front from your portfolio? Or do we need to make sure that we are deferring and getting that 8% compounding growth year over year? And so we're going to help you make sure that you find out how to take it the right way, how to get signed up. But overall, when it comes to the agency piece, we're not the governmental agency. And that is just stressful for in times like this, especially when it's my family, hitting so close to home. You just need to make sure you're getting ahead of it as soon as possible because it's going to take a long time.
And with that, you want to be prepared, make sure you got the right documents and those type of things. And some of the times, like I did, you can submit those online so that when you do get into a different location or an appointment, things are going to go smoothly. And it's knowing what those documents are and getting them uploaded that makes it so much easier for you. So that's why we do that heavy lifting for our clients.
And don't forget to track all those communications, Because when you finally do get an appointment with them and that they're there, or you finally get them on the phone, at least you have documentation and support like Dad was talking about, so you can help follow this through.
Yeah, for sure. I'm wondering, for first-time people who are going through this process and want to claim their benefits. Let's say somebody's reaching the age of 67 this year. They know that was the age they wanted to claim. Mm-hmm. You ran that Social Security optimization report for them when they came in for that first visit. Let's say they know that this is the year. How much lead time would you say someone needs to give right now? A few months, something like that?
Well, I want to plug this in, and Laurel can answer that, because when Laurel came into our office, 12 years ago now?
Uh-huh.
Yes, this is 12th anniversary year for me.
I got lucky I got that number right. But what she did is she looked at Social Security benefits and what's going on out there, and she became our expert in our whole office. And so she has a passionate making sure that our clients get the maximum money and benefits that they're entitled to. And so, Laurel, go ahead and answer that question.
Yeah, I think 30 days is too close of a timeline. These are decisions. When it comes to Social Security and signing up, like you're talking about, Jennifer, for the first time, this is a foundational piece to this income pillar that we talk about. Mm-hmm. And so we got to really treat it that way, make sure we're honing in on it that way. And we're going to help you, but I would give it months, right?
Okay.
A couple of months, at least 3 months.
Minimum, yeah.
To make sure that we've got everything loaded in the system. We signed up, because what's going to happen possibly is you think a check is going to start and you don't get it. Well, now what, right? Where are you taking income from? And if you don't have a guided fiduciary advisor to help you through this stuff, man, that's got to be so challenging and frustrating, because now you're just going to blindly start taking income from your investments, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that we are looking at really a 360 view on what this Social Security check can do for you when it's going to come in, because likely it's not going to be the perfect day you're thinking, so you got to give it time. So these are the problems that we're actively solving with our clients every day.
And ahead of time. Again, they're proactive at Mattson Financial Services. Not much we can do about the Social Security Administration and some of the issues there, but at least you can go ahead and plan for this income. You can know what that looks like in terms of all these different scenarios all the way through retirement. If you'd like to run that as part of your plan, that's part of that special offer we're making this weekend here on Money Mentors. Talk to our team off the air today. Again, that number is 800-536-8907. But up next, a new option for creating your paycheck in retirement. We're going to talk to Gary and Laurel about that coming up next as Money Mentors continues right here on Wood Radio.
Want weekly lessons from your money mentors? Yes. Hit the subscribe button now and listen every weekend on Wood Radio.
Thanks for checking out the Money Mentors podcast. And, one of the really cool things about the investment world these days is how the options continually change, giving us more opportunities to invest in things that help us meet our specific retirement income goals. So enter the monthly paycheck ETF. This is something that Yahoo Finance discussed in depth recently, and I thought it was kind of interesting because it seeks to address what a lot of people want, which is a regular paycheck in retirement. But what do you think of this, a monthly paycheck ETF? This is kind of a new thing for a lot of our listeners, probably.
Yeah, for us, we've been doing this for years upon years upon years. We call it the critical income need bucket. And what we do for our clients is that when they start retirement, we put about 18 months of money into this bucket, and we know exactly how much money is going out. And when the dollar comes out and hits their bank account, the taxes for federal and state have also been taken out. So the net that goes into the account is there. They get to live on, consume that. And that account really doesn't have a lot of ups and downs because we want it to be what I call a stable account. And what they're talking about here with the ETF is going to do the same thing. It's going to put in dividends and those things that you're going to get, but it's not going to be a high yield, high risk, I should say, account. We want the high yield, but we don't want the high risk with that. And so you do want to make money on some of that money, but it's not critical because what we want here is the avenue of not having losses. By not having losses, and we have 18 months of money there, like in our instance, what we set up for our clients, that means we have 18 months of availability of the rest of the assets to make money to refill that bucket. And if we're always refilling that bucket from growth, whether it's stocks, bonds, alternative investments like precious metals, real estate, even cryptocurrency, whatever it is, then we're having income for life, and we don't have to worry about the market's going negative. We get to have the opportunity to buy into those areas when we have that extra critical income need sitting there waiting for us.
And it's really nice, like you said, Jennifer, that there are a lot of alternatives and options that are starting to hit the markets more and more. But I think that's why it's also more and more important to make sure you're working with a fiduciary advisor and a holistic planning team that focuses on health insurance and taxation along with these other pillars, because, monthly income ETFs, they're one tool. And they can be a beautiful thing, paying out those quarterly dividends and things and kind of help you keep pace with the expenses that you have going on. But it's not a silver bullet, right? And that's how kind of everything is. There's going to be new things. There was crypto. Crypto's still here. And we know it can have market swings up that are amazing, but also can have crazy major downswings. So the thing about these monthly income ETFs is it still involves market risk. Income is not guaranteed. So maybe it's a portion of your portfolio. And like Dad's talking about, we build this in. We're going to go back to your dreams, goals, and desires. What's important to you? We're going to align that with your hard-earned savings and then make sure you have an income strategy, right? So you have some protection in there because retirees need that. But also you have growth tools in there to make sure you're keeping up with inflation and cost of living. And it's not just what you see at the grocery store, but we know healthcare costs go up extreme, right? Year over year. Hundreds of thousands of dollars can go into that. And also, what if you need long-term care? So we're looking at this from this holistic view and a holistic strategy, and we're going to stress test it along the way and then give you that plan. We've got a long-term view, but we're active managers, and we're going to make tweaks along the way.
And again, everything in that portfolio is really built around retirement income and understanding how all of that fits together. It's what they do at Mattson Financial Services. But while we're talking about this idea of generating that income, let's do a little dreaming here. Let's say you won the lottery. Would you choose to be paid all at once or over time? Well, USA Today recently highlighted the story of a Canadian 20-year-old who set social media on fire because of her controversial decision to take her $1 million winnings over time in payments of $1,000 a week for life. Now, a lot of people disagreed with her decision to do that, saying she should have taken the lump sum instead and invested it. So what do you think? Did she do the right thing?
I think number one is she shouldn't have went on social media about it, right?
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot. Like, we're dreamers here. I mentioned that before when you asked us about New Year's resolutions and things, and that's hard for me because we kind of dream in the moment as we go, right? And so Dad and I talk about this a lot too, to say, if you were to do this, how do we give back to the schools and things like that? But it's about the math and the taxation, really.
Yeah, and let's really dive into the two options, what they really are.
Yes.
So a lump sum is a one-time cash payment, usually the cash value of the jackpot. The cash value is the amount of money required in the jackpot prize pool on the day of the drawing to fund the estimated jackpot annuity prize payments over time.
So again, jackpot. Right?
Yeah.
There's like tongue ties.
Jack in the box. So what happens, what we're saying here is that the lump sum is what they would have to spend to get the payment for the annuity over time. Now, the annuity is a regular stream of payments over time, either for a certain number of years or for life. Now, on Mega Millions and the Powerball, the two largest U.S. lotteries, they pay the annuity with an annual payment over 30 years that increases each year by 5%. So somebody might be criticizing this lovely lady who did what she did, but now she has after-tax dollars in her account. She's paid the taxes on it. What can she do with that? Well, obviously she can live and change her lifestyle, but also she can do after-tax investing. So if a proper plan was set in place and she's very, very young doing after-tax investing, that may be the best decision for her, depending on what her plans are for lifetime income and where she's at in stages. So she might have looked at this and said, look, I'm going to get married. I'm going to have children. I'm not going to have an income during those time frame. So I'm going to take the annuity payments instead. And then when I'm working, put the money away. And when I'm not working, have that flow to contribute to my family. Does that make sense? I like the option, if you can do it, is saying, okay, I want to split the baby. I always think it's nice to have a big pool of money, but also have income over time. And that's what you can do with a lump sum. You can take the lump sum, actually pay the taxes on it, set up some of that for income for the rest of your life, not just 30 years, but it doesn't matter if you, like my mom, who lived almost to 102, she had that income coming in every month like clockwork. and then have the other money grow. So you have your critical income needs set up like we like to talk about. You don't have to worry about that for the rest of your life. And then you have your opportunity fund, the things that you want to do in life. And as those grow, you can do those travels and fly first class if you want to, whatever that is, or give gifts if you want to those important people or charities. But once again, you're doing it with growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the key is you want to have a balance, right? And there also is no one size fits all answer because it comes down to longevity, your goals, what do you want to do? But the key here is that if this happens to you, oh my gosh, amazing.
Congratulations.
But you got to call and get help, right? And run the numbers because you look at it so big and you're like, oh, if it's $1 million, maybe not even that, that's not good enough. $500 million. Okay, they take away a whole huge chunk of that to taxes and I'm left with 300 million. My life has changed.
Absolutely.
But what could we have done with that other 200 if we would have maybe thought about this a little differently? Like you're talking not only maybe a couple generations of a life change, but you're talking multi-generational planning now and changing lives and communities, right? And that impact is huge.
And that's why, I mean, this is actually happening with some of our clients. We got a call one year, and a client out in California called up, and she says, we have something very important to talk to you about, but we're not talking about it. And I'm like, what?
We always talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, something happened to us, but I can't tell you. I'm like, okay. And as we finally talked about this for about an hour, we got it out that they won the lottery in California.
Wow.
You're going to say, okay, well, what's the problem? The problem was she was so worried about the black cloud that follows the sunshine. Oh. She was saying, I really don't want to talk about this because we won this. Now what's the negative that's going to happen to us? And there is negative things that come along. And I like to say that people win lottery have the most friends of anybody, but nobody likes them.
Yeah.
Well, they're all going to start asking for handouts, right, too? I mean, there's a lot of that conversation with it.
So we help you handle all of that in a proper way that puts you in the best light by planning it out ahead of time.
But regardless, your hard-earned money, right? If you have $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, you can still take the same philosophy and apply it to where you are today to make sure that you have money set aside to take care of your critical income need, right? You have steady income payments coming in that you don't have to worry about what's happening in the markets and the volatility because you're taken care of. And then we also have some funds invested on the other side, that lifestyle that we're talking about, to make sure you do the fun stuff and anything on top of. So just make sure if you're wondering how to get started on that today, you can give us a call, be one of those first 5 callers to get that second opinion, see what it looks like here at Mattson Financial at 800-536-8907.
And remember, 78% of lottery winners end up in bankruptcy.
Right.
How can that be? Because they didn't get a good plan, a foundation, and they got the money and they didn't know what they were going to do with it.
And Laurel's right. This doesn't just apply to lottery winners either. Think about all of you who've saved really well for retirement. A lot of you are sitting on $1 million or more, that big number in your retirement accounts. So how are you going to translate that to last you the rest of your life? For a lot of you, too, who still have that pension today, you might be offered that lump sum versus the annuity. You might need some help making that decision, too. Your team at Mattson Financial Services is here to help with those kinds of decisions, help you weigh through your options, figure out what is best for you. As fiduciary advisors, they're here to help with those kinds of things. You can give us a call, take advantage of that offer this weekend at 800-536-8907. Again, that's 800-536-8907. Or you can always set up a time that works for that phone call for you right there through our website at mattsonfinancial.com. You can access our calendar there. That's Mattson with 2 T's, financial.com. But next, the first baby boomers are turning 80 this year. Can you believe that? We'll talk about planning into that decade. It's coming up next as Money Mentors continues on Wood Radio.
You're listening to the Money Mentors Podcast.
A couple of easy ways to reach out to your money mentors. If you have some questions for us, easy to do at mattsonfinancial.com. You can simply set up a 15-minute phone call to go over some of your initial questions there, or reach out to our team at 800-536-8907. 8907. The Pew Research Center says the oldest members of this baby boomer generation, yes, they're turning 80 this year. And if you're counting back, yeah, they were born in 1946. But you're starting to see, I know, more of your clients live into their 80s as well, maybe their 90s and beyond, because you've been doing this so long yourselves. So how do you help them plan for this more active life even later into retirement?
Yeah, I got to go back to one of our clients, and they always bring a smile to my face when I think about them, is that married a long time, great kids, great family, all those things go along, very faith-based people. And on their 70th birthday, together they went out and got tattoos. First tattoo at 70.
70.
And I'm like, what?
I love it.
This is a bucket list. I know you said you wanted to do this, but you really did it? Okay, show them to me. Well, then the conversation went on different ways. So anyways, it was one of those things, again, that they felt that at that point in time, they could establish what they wanted to in their career, in their morals. People wouldn't judge that differently by a tattoo. And they went out and did it. So again, we applaud people that want to do this a little bit different. Myself, and the same thing is that at 54 years old, I had the opportunity to drive NASCAR at Talladega. And I think Laurel remembers that very well because we had never missed any of her volleyball games. She was in college, and I had this opportunity, and I said, but I'm going to miss 2 of your games because I have to do practice and all that. And she said,
well, you said you weren't going to go to it. You had it, and you weren't going to because you were going to come.
Yep, because I was going to make sure I didn't miss her games.
And I said, no, that's not it. You're going, right? Yeah. I can handle you not being here, right? What an amazing thing.
And so at 54, I really did feel 44. And I'm out there and shifting through the gears, and I'm like, first I started, I'm going, what are you doing out here? And then once I got into it, a couple of laps, I'm like, I'm glad I'm here.
I'll stay here for a while.
So as baby boomers, we have a lot more opportunity to try things, experience things that we wouldn't otherwise had the opportunity if we didn't have the assets. So once again, most people say when they get to retirement, they're maybe 80, but they feel 65 or they feel 70. Mm-hmm. They're about 10 to 15 years they feel younger. And how many people we know in their 90s playing pickleball and doing traveling. It's amazing.
I think that's the important thing and why we're so different here at Mattson Financials. That conversation with us when you get to know us is not about the money and what you've done so far to prepare. We want to get to know you, right? That relationship matters more so because you've worked for 30 or more years likely to this point. And now is your time to have these go-go years like Dad always talks about. And what are those dreams that you want to fulfill? Because that's what we're going to work on in this plan is taking your dreams and your goals and desires and matching it with what you've worked so hard for and seeing how it's possible. If it's possible, making it happen, because that brings us so much joy seeing you live your dreams. And I think about a couple different of our clients. You know, we have ones who are really passionate about mentoring and others volunteering. And Dad talked about pickleball, right? That little bit more of that active lifestyle. And I'm going to give a shout out to Ray. He's no longer with us, but he made such
very special guy
an impact on us personally too, not only from a client perspective, but just because he cared to mentor so much that he would go to local schools and prisons and care about that next generation and making sure that they knew what was to come for them, that they had possibility. And I think of Ruth, who worked really hard. We put up a plan for her. And we met and we talked about it. We gave her this annual review checkup and we said, well, how are you doing on volunteering, right? Are we there yet? And she's like, I might be. Some things are happening in my current workplace that I'm not loving, but let me give it a little more time and I'll see. And it was not a day later. I woke up that next morning and I had an email in my inbox from her saying, Laurel, you showed me the numbers. They actually check out. I will be making more money with the plan that we set up and activating it now than I am while working. And now I get to volunteer. I can't take it. I'm ready.
Yeah, so she was in a full workplace, retired, got a part-time job that she was committed to, eventually loved it, and then unloved it because of management. And at that point in time, she wasn't loving it anymore and says, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, like here are the numbers. Right now is the time. And so There are so many different opportunities for you out there. We have individuals who've worked really hard in their jobs, very high up, high paying jobs, but it just takes so much out of you. And now everybody's starting to realize that experiences and time to be present, especially in a world of so much technology, is really, really important. And so we're helping people figure out, what does that next phase look like? We're going to have more conversations and help you dream if you need that help, because purpose is so crucial, especially when you're retiring, because your identity is so much tied to your job, right? So how do we make sure that you're fulfilling your dreams and you have the income that's protected so you don't have to worry about market volatility along the way?
Love some of these stories. It really gives you, something to really aspire to in retirement, and it doesn't have to be the end of something. It can be the true beginning of a whole new chapter in retirement. But as we do get a little bit older into retirement, one thing you do need to brace yourself for financially is RMDs. And we call it the government plan for your money in traditional retirement accounts. That's according to IRA expert Ed Slott. He tells Morningstar that you really have to have a plan for the money in your tax-deferred retirement accounts. Otherwise, you are stuck with this government plan.
What is the government plan? Maybe I'm interested. No, you're not interested in that plan. That's forced RMDs starting at age 73. Now you're not in control. By converting, you can control your tax rates. You can do a series of smaller Roth conversions over each year, over time, bringing down this taxable IRA. Remember, a lot of your IRA is a debt owed back to the government. Your IRA is an IOU to the IRS.
I love this quote. I know it's one of your favorites, too, because
It is
so true and so simple, too. It's amazing, though, how many people forget about this.
Yes, we had the pleasure a few years back of actually listening to Ed Slott live in person. And when he said that, I mean, it's engraved in my brain. I will never forget it, right? And we focus when it comes to retirement and income and investments on taxes. You cannot forget that. You can't have this conversation later, especially as we're talking about these required minimum distributions. It has to be a part of the plan in the beginning. And it's going to change every year. It's not set it and forget it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that if your advisor's not giving you tax advice, they are giving you tax advice in the wrong way. They're not giving you any advice.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, you really want to have the opportunity. When it comes to the market, can we control the ups and downs in the market? The answer is no. But we definitely can control how we react to that. If the market's down, we can buy. When the market's up, we can harvest those yields and look for gains or income and those type of things. The same is true when it comes to taxes. You can control. When you're in position to do that, you control how much you pay in taxes. When you do nothing, you allow the government to be in control, and they're going to tell you how much they're going to take in taxes. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be the one to pay less in taxes and give it to my family or have a better lifestyle or do other things with it. Don't get me wrong. I served in the Air Force. I believe in Uncle Sam, but also there's so much waste out there. It's amazing, and we see it every day in our lives. So let's put those extra dollars to work for you. Let's help you make great decisions what to do with those dollars instead of the federal government taking them and you never see them again.
And I think, too, this is really good for you to understand, listeners out there, by talking about Roth conversions and why it's so important, is you're actually going to pay tax on the seed, right? You're not going to pay tax on the harvest.
Well, that's so good.
That's what this allows you to do, and you get to control your income, because if something's happening and you're not diversified and you've got a major expense, you're forced to take from your 401k or your IRA, and you have to pay the tax. You don't have any control.
So I'm going to pay tax on the tree I planted, but I'm not going to pay tax on the fruit that I'm going to eat for the rest of my life.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
But then if we can make sure we have this Roth bucket taken care of and we have some money there, and this big extreme thing happens, and maybe we're maxed out in our tax bracket for what have you, now we're not forced to go into that next tax bracket. We can say, let's take from this Roth IRA here. We don't have to pay the tax on it. We're not going up into a higher tax bracket. Like, that's the power of you get to control this.
Yeah. And again, it gives you so many more options. And I think Gary was so right. If you're not getting tax advice, you are actually getting some tax advice. They're not doing you any favors in terms of helping you keep more of what you've worked so hard to save over the years. But at Mattson Financial Services, this is one of those very important pillars that they include in that plan for retirement. So for our listeners who, haven't really thought much about RMDs because it seems maybe a bit far away, but now they're starting to realize, hey, yeah, this is that IOU to the IRS, and I'd like to do something about it. How can they get started with us this weekend?
If you saved at least $250,000 for retirement and you're looking for answers,
now's the time to call, right? We talk about this being holistic. We have a tax preparer in-house because we care so much about making sure this is right for you. So don't let this be a tax surprise for you in the future. And remember, you can't do it once leading up to 73 and think that this problem is taken care of. It's an annual thing. So be one of those first 5 callers by calling us at 800-536-8907 to get started on your complimentary tax-aware retirement review today.
It's a great time to do it. Starting to get some of those tax documents now for last year. We'll go ahead and set up that visit at Mattson Financial Services. Come in and let's review your tax situation as part of that overall retirement plan. Again, that number is 800-536-8907. Or you can always start online too at mattsonfinancial.com. That's Mattson with 2 T's. Financial.com. But up next, 10 signs you might be ready to retire. We'll go through that next year with your money mentors right here on Wood Radio.
Getting you not just to, but through retirement. This is the Money Mentors Podcast.
We love it when you bring in that list of dreams, goals, and desires for your retirement. And if you want to share those with us, a couple of easy ways to do that at mattsonfinancial.com. You can always visit us online, or you can go to our Facebook page, Instagram, and more. Just search us out at Mattson Financial Services. But let's face it, Gary and Laurel, making that decision to retire is not always an easy one, but MoneyWise gives us a list this week that might make it easier from not just a financial point of view, but also just a personal one. So let's talk about some of the 10 signs that you might be ready to retire. And number 1 on this list, actually, you talked about it a little bit earlier with one of your own clients, but that's just figuring out that work simply is not fulfilling anymore. A lot of people, I think, these days are running into that.
Yeah, in fact, we like to use, a lot of times we learn from our clients, and we like to use what they tell us worked for them. And we had a client that said, she went to her boss and said, this isn't fulfilling me anymore. I'm not that, excited about it. I'm really thinking about retiring. And I'm meeting with my financial advisor. So we got together and we talked about it, and she went back to her boss and she said to him this, because he asked her to come in and after I talked to a financial advisor. And she said, my financial advisor said I can go at any time. So here's the deal. Anytime I have 2 bad days in a row, I'm done. And he looked at her, smiled, and says, anytime you have a bad day, you take the next day off with my permission. So actually,
good boundary setting right there.
And she did last an extra almost 2 years on the job because she had that confidence that she was not going to have this emotional problem going on, that she could get home and get rejuvenated for what she wanted to do the next day at work. And so it worked for her. But once again, work isn't fulfilling. I don't feel energized by work. I'm going in there, I'm dreading it. And then it makes it time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not about the money. Hey, I've got enough money to retire. I don't need the money. It's just the job I don't want to do anymore. And that's where you transition to a different job that you want to do because you don't need to make as much money, because you don't need to put more money in your 401k. You've got enough. That's great. So now I just need to pay the bills till I want to stop working so I can do something fulfillment at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Find the new why.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. You can go do what you actually want to do. That's pretty cool too. Number 2 is simply tech fatigue. This is very real. I actually know someone in a different industry who recently decided to call it quits, retire for good, because he didn't like the whole AI wave and said, you know what? I don't have any interest in learning about this, so now's my time. That's very real too.
Yeah, we've seen this a lot in doctors as well, is that when they went to this new computing system where every time they're with a patient, they have to be on the computer diagnosing or putting in the information into it. And they said, you know what? That's not me being a doctor. That's me being a clinician about facts going into the file of my patient. I just don't want to do that anymore. And they changed careers. I did something different. So it can be rolling out a new software program, learning that. It could be you being in charge of a new program and you have all these people looking at you. And let's face it, they may have more skills in it than you do. And you know what? You just want that pressure anymore. So again, tech fatigue happens at times. I got to admit, I was part of that. I was the first agency in Grand Rapids to go computers everywhere with everything we did. And now some things I just go up and go, hey, I need some help on my computer here because I can't do it. And even in our office, sometimes we just have to have the IT people come in and fix it because it is that tough that we just don't know. And it changes so much.
For sure. Number 3 on the list of the 10 signs you might be ready to retire. Promotions aren't even that exciting anymore. That, it could be a good sign.
That's really not a good sign, right? That's so much with the emotion part. So if climbing the career ladder feels irrelevant or possibly impossible, right? You don't even see a way up, you're going to be psychologically done. I feel like that's a really hard space to come back from and feel rejuvenated with. So that's definitely a signal of burnout. And that's time to, take some time in reflection. You probably have some good PTO going. Take some time off, reevaluate. What does it look like for me to get plugged back in? Is this the purpose and where I want to be, or do I need to shift?
Next, the Sunday dread starts early. If you're already thinking about Monday, let's say on Saturday now instead of Sunday, you probably might want to give it up.
This one makes me laugh because if you haven't heard of it before, it's the Sunday scaries, and that really creeps in. And for us, I'm going to be honest, I love what we do. I have so much passion. That's why I, started here 12 years ago, making our community a better place when it comes to retirement, not only from educating, but you've done so much work to get your hard-earned money. We want to make sure we're providing great resources to you for income, taxes, all these other things. But Sunday scaries are real. So this is one of those that I'm not going to say it's time to move out on a job because I don't think that's true.
No.
But it is one of those things to where what's the why behind it? For me personally, it's about I'm getting into a new routine from having time off on the weekend. I've got to prep stuff for the kids with school, right? I've got to plug back in, get into homework mode. We're starting to do things with travel, or the kids are plugged into activities, right? It just seems like there's a lot there. So managing a schedule. Those are things that I can control and change, right? But if Sunday scaries are creeping in because you're just not looking to get plugged into what you're doing and it's not changing, that's a red light.
Yeah, for sure. Next sign you might be ready to retire, you're always checking your retirement accounts.
Yeah, this is one of those that I think could maybe be a good thing, right? That means your brain is exploring retirement possibilities. And the moment that that's really something you're thinking about, that's a great sign to call and get a checkup, right? Because a lot of people will say, well, can I retire? Well, let's really turn that into what could retirement look like today? And we're going to show you that. And we're going to have conversations to say, well, you could retire today and this is what that income looks like. But also based on your dreams, goals, and desires and things that we've talked about, we need to increase these buckets a little bit more. We need to drop some of these zeros out of this Social Security to really help that over time. And so we're going to have that conversation and see, do we need to go another year or 2 years out? So that's really good time to get a checkup.
The next one's kind of a positive one, I think. Hobbies and volunteering dominate your daydreams. I like that one.
Yes, community is so important, especially here in West Michigan. It's important for our team. It's really important for our clients. Or even if you're starting to explore some lifelong dreams of woodworking or writing a novel. These are things that our clients have done. That's a really good time to say, hey, your identity might be shifting away from work, and you're really feeling this drive and this calling to do something more. Get a checkup. Can I make this work? But like you said, a good thing to make sure, hey, I have a little bit of something else that I desire to do to fill my cup up. Now's the time.
Another one here on the list, you start to notice the generational gap at work, and maybe it starts to bother you just a little bit, or you just know that maybe it's time to hand over the reins.
Yeah, some of that shift, obviously with younger generations coming in, and every generation is very, very different. We'll save that for another show. But that disconnect can really trigger retirement thoughts. Some people really get fueled by that to say, hey, I've got people who I'm working with now in their 20s or 30s who are starting families, and I love that because I can kind of mentor, or people are looking at me, and I can talk about caregiving and grandkids. And others might say, they're talking about Twitter and tweets and X and things that I don't get, and I don't have commonalities with the people that I'm putting 40 plus hours of work into every week.
Yeah.
So maybe it's time to disconnect and pull myself out of that.
And then you might be jealous of your retired friends or your partners, your spouses. That's
Yes.
another issue.
That's something we talk about a lot. If you're married and one spouse retires, we have that honest conversation of kind of the why behind the next spouse would continue work, because we know that it will likely be hey, I see my spouse doing these other things, right? Or they don't have an alarm and they get to do this. I want to do that. I'm not finding that fulfillment anymore. So we talk about that up front, knowing that it's possibly going to come, because that could just mean, right, you're ready for something at a slower pace, and that's okay.
Yeah. Number 9 on the 10 signs that you might be ready to retire. Yeah, this is a big one. Your boss is unbearable.
Yeah.
That's hard to overcome.
Absolutely. I mean, the idea of working with your manager for years at that point is going to feel impossible. And that clarity could be another way of pointing you out the door.
And finally, number 10 on the list this week. This is one that you might not be able to overcome, because sometimes this is the one that pushes people out the door on its own. And that is the physical signs are unavoidable.
Yes, joint aches, fatigue, declining energy at work can show your body's ready for a change. That's all real. I think about some of our clients, I met with them a couple years ago because he got to that point. They saw that we need help. Their life had changed from a physical state, and his company was really great in saying, hey, we're going to give you time, whatever you need. You can be here a couple days a week. That's okay. He had a lot of doctor's appointments, and just seeing what a treatment plan looked like. Super supportive work environment.
Yeah.
And by coming in, honestly, they were very down. They didn't think it was possible. And we went through this income plan, and they saw what their income looked like, and also what could possibly be left for a legacy for kids and grandkids should they wish to do something like that. And they were in tears, and I was in tears. And it was one of those moments where they had this, oh my gosh, we didn't know it was possible. And they're retired now, and you'll hear about them time and time again on this show, but they stop by and they show us pictures of them fishing and the boat that they're on, and they got a new truck for the first time in their entire life, living out their dreams. So what could have been, it started with a really hard mental picture, ended up blossoming into a beautiful thing because they got clarity.
I love that. So for our listeners who might be seeing some of these signs themselves and they have those questions in their head, how can they come in and get some of those answers?
You can be one of the first 5 callers for a complimentary retirement readiness conversation, right? If you're asking yourself whether this might be the year, it's a good time to call today. We're going to put it all together in what we call the Mattson map, so you have a clear, personalized view of your income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy. So if you save $250,000 or more, ready to retire, be one of those first 5 callers now.
Again, that number is 800-536-8907. 800-536-8907. If you're driving right now, just remember our website and sign up there online anytime this weekend at mattsonfinancial.com. And be sure to join us here again next weekend for more lessons right here with your Money Mentors.
At Mattson Financial, every plan starts with our 5 pillars: income, investments, taxes, health plan, and legacy. Together, they create your Mattson map, a clear path to get you to and through retirement with confidence. Because when all 5 pillars work together, your plan works for life.
Thanks for listening.
Want weekly lessons from your money mentors? Yes. Hit the subscribe button now and listen every weekend on Wood Radio.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Fee-based financial planning and investment services are offered by Mattson Financial Services, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance products and services offered through Lakeview Financial Group, LLC, Mattson Financial Services, LLC, and Lakeview Financial Group are affiliated. To find out if Mattson Financial Services is licensed in your state, please call 800-536-8907.